He convinced Hollywood stars, global business leaders, and thousands of Western youths to surrender their lives to him. Yet, within a decade, he would become a primary target of the Indian state. This trajectory began in 1931 on a 1,400-acre estate in Madhya Pradesh. This was the childhood home of Chandra Mohan Jain, the boy who would eventually be known as Osho. His home was a clash of worldviews. On one side was his grandfather, an unyielding atheist who lived without any religious fear. On the other was his father, a man who followed strict temple rituals and daily prayers. Growing up in this gap between devout faith and total skepticism, he stopped accepting inherited dogmas. He began to look at any person claiming unquestioned authority with immediate doubt. This environment of constant clashing beliefs ensured that he would never accept a rule simply because it was tradition. By the time he reached university, he had moved from doubt to radicalism. He immersed himself in Marxist and anarchist literature, arriving at a singular conclusion that no government or law should have the right to restrict human behavior. He turned this logic on his professors, using relentless cross-questioning to disrupt his classes. It became such a distraction that he was eventually barred from attending regular lectures and was only permitted to show up for his final exams. The defining shift occurred on March 21, 1953. Sitting under a tree in Jabalpur, the 21-year-old felt his soul separate from his body. He identified this moment as his spiritual awakening. Blending his anarchist background with this claim of spiritual awakening gave him a unique kind of influence. He began to speak with the unshakable confidence of a man who believed he had seen a reality others couldn't comprehend. In 1958, now a professor known as Acharya Rajneesh, he addressed a religious conference in Bombay. He was scheduled to speak on the nature of love, but he pivoted almost immediately to a sermon on sex. He argued that India's sexual conservatism was a form of collective sickness. His thesis was that the path to a higher consciousness didn't require avoiding physical desire, it required embracing it completely. The backlash was immediate, including death threats from religious leaders. But when he published these ideas in his book, From Sex to Superconsciousness, the media gave him a title that made his brand global, the Sex Guru. As his lectures began circulating on audio tapes, they reached a generation of young Westerners looking for a way out of traditional society. Thousands of wealthy travelers began flying to Mumbai, finding the man who promised spiritual liberation without the need for traditional morals. He had successfully identified a global demand for rebellion. By selling a philosophy that rejected every existing social rule, he turned his small group into a multi-million-dollar international enterprise. By 1974, the operation had moved to a massive ashram in Pune. Its influence had reached the highest levels of Indian society, even convincing Bollywood superstar Vinod Khanna to leave his career behind and join the commune. Followers participated in dynamic meditation, a grueling cycle of screaming and crying, followed by sudden stillness meant to break the ego. Then came encounter groups. To eliminate jealousy, they normalized partner swapping, dismantling individual boundaries under the guise of meditation. Investigative reports eventually began documenting a darker reality. The same environment that preached freedom began using strange methods of discipline, and soon allegations of non-consensual assault were being reported from within the commune. This is the danger inherent in an anarchic commune. When an organization is built entirely on removing social rules, it often ends up removing basic protections for the people inside. By the late 70s, this unregulated empire reached its breaking point with the Indian government. No organization of this size could remain outside sovereign power forever. Prime Minister Morarji Desai took a direct stance. His government revoked their tax-exempt status, hitting the ashram with a $5 million tax bill. The tension turned violent in 1980. During a public lecture, a fundamentalist armed with a knife attempted to assassinate Osho, highlighting how much his presence was now polarizing the country. Faced with increasing legal and physical threats, Osho made a move that surprised his followers. In April 1981, he declared he was entering a vow of silence that would last for years. With the leader silent, unyielding control of the commune fell to a new secretary, Ma Anand Sheela. She would become the public face of the empire's most aggressive era. Fearing arrest in India, the organization made a final move. They spent millions to buy a 64,000-acre ranch in the Oregon desert, intending to build a city from the ground up, where no government could reach them. Osho had used rebellion as a tool to build a kingdom, but he couldn't outrun the law. The move to America would set the stage for one of the most violent conflicts in U.S. history. If you want to see how this ended in FBI raids and bioterrorism, comment Part 2 below and subscribe.